just go away.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dave.
And I'm John.
And this is Coffee and Capes, our podcast about two of our favorite things, talking about geek culture and drinking coffee.
Mm-hmm. Coffee.
Yes, coffee.
Yes. We're back on our regular schedule. Like, not every week, but every 2 weeks.
It's our new regular schedule. Yes.
That's our new regular
We're committing
schedule.
to it. As you said last time, we're committing to this every other week thing.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be more sustainable. So thanks for journeying with us, everybody.
Yeah. So what's on the agenda today, Brian?
Same thing it is every day, John. Try to take over the geek world.
I don't know that I want to take it over.
I don't either.
Be
a
part of it.
Yeah, I just want to
cool
be part of it. Yeah, I don't need to take over anything.
I don't want to be Kang quite yet.
Yeah, not yet. Although Kang was very good, and that's what we're going to talk about, friends. We're going to get through our all of our usual propers here real quick, and then we're going to talk about Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania.
Yeah. But let's get through the propers first, Dave.
Let's do that. So everybody, thanks for finding us in whatever manner you did. Just to run down all the ways that you can connect with us, John.
Yeah, so we're on social, guys. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. We're not really active on Twitter anymore, but TikTok, try to be a little bit active on TikTok these days. So hunt us down there. Coffee _ the letter N _ the word capes. If you're watching us on YouTube, we put it in the little note down in the bottom, because we are also on YouTube. So if you're watching us, you found us on YouTube. We have a website, coffee, the letter N, the word capes.com, or you can just type in comics.coffee, and that will take you to the website. At the website, we have all kinds of magical things like coffee and comic books. It's so weird. And we've added some toys. That's pretty cool. Like,
I saw that. That's very fun.
Yeah, there's some fun toys that have been added in there as well. Give us a follow on Instagram, because we are going to be doing a live sale on Instagram, like our first ever kind of like live thing on social, interacting with the community, doing some claim sales on some comics, giving away some coffee, just having fun.
Yeah, I can't wait to do that. Like, I really hope some of you folks that listen to us will give us a watch on there just so we can interact.
Yeah, stop in and say hi. It'd be like if we opened a store somewhere.
Yeah,
you know, we would want you guys to come in and say hi, so we can put, like, you know, I guess we're not going to put faces with names, but you can put faces with names if you don't watch us, right? So anyway, yeah, give us a follow on Instagram, and then
what's our Instagram handle?
Coffee _ the letter N _ the word capes.
There you go.
And then if you're listening to us, there you go, Coffee and Capes. If you're listening to us, then you found us on however you consume your podcasty goodness. So Spotify, iTunes. You know what? I'm going to throw this out there. We would really love some reviews on iTunes, and not just like the little stars, like maybe a comment. So here's what I'm going to say. If you go in and give us a review, then in 2 weeks, right? But so here's how it's going to work. You got to give us a review. Be nice.
5-star review. It needs to be a 5-star.
5-star review. We take 4, 3. We don't need it. 3 and below, like, just keep your comments to yourself. No, it's okay. But you're not going to get entered into anything. But if you give us a review, put the whole thing in, tag yourself in our Instagram feed when this podcast episode goes out on the Instagram feed. Find it, go in, tag yourself, say that you did a review. We'll verify it, right? And then in 2 weeks, we will announce a winner, and we'll give you shop exclusive and maybe send you some coffee.
What?
I know, it's crazy. It's crazy, right? Speaking of, let's talk about shop exclusive.
Do you have a shop exclusive? And remind people what a shop exclusive is.
Shop exclusive, right? So this is Draculina #1. This is the full dress art version of it. By the cover is done by David Sanchez. So shop exclusive, guys. If you're in the comic book collecting world, you know what that is. If you're not, What it is, we got one of our favorite artists to do a cover to this amazing book. Like I said, Draculina Blood Simple #1. You can see it on the back. It
I
has our,
love that back cover too. Our
yeah, that's pretty
Coffee and
cool.
Capes is so nice and prominent. It's great.
Yeah.
Um,
So exclusive Draculina and Raging Cajun K-Cups, right?
it's a great combination. And if you're listening to this and not watching it and you didn't see any of that and you want to see it, you can just go to our website. You can see those. You can see that shop exclusive, that amazing cover by David Sanchez.
Yeah, and do us a favor,
coffeeandcapes.com.
give David a follow on social as well.
Yes.
He's a great guy. He's done 2 covers for us. He did the Exiled, he did this Draculina cover. But we will, again, if you give us a review, right, then go over to Instagram. If you don't follow us, give us a follow. Find the post for this episode. Do a little tagging action in there. Let us know you gave a review. Tag a friend to let them know to listen to the show as well.
Yes.
And then we'll enter you into a giveaway, and we will send you Draculina, a copy of our shop exclusive Draculina, which was limited to 500. Only 500 have been printed. And we will send you a bag of coffee, unless you want K-Cups, then we'll send you some K-Cups. But most people, want bags of coffee, and we do have bags of coffee. So again, right? Little contest just so we can, say thanks for giving us the review.
Yes, absolutely.
Is really what we're doing there. And we do love to give stuff away. We give things away
every month.
Every month, actually. Yeah, every month. We just sent Jerry his prize package from winning the January Golden January Golden Funko, because we're in February, so it would have been January.
Yeah,
we just got that sent off. Jerry, we just got it sent off to you.
Jerry. Good
Congratulations.
job, congratulations.
Thanks for the support, buddy. Have fun with that. Jerry won a Something is Killing the Children hardbound volume 1 second print. And then he won.
That set is nice.
Dude, it's amazing. It's so good. It was so hard to pack that up for him because I wanted to keep it.
I want it for myself.
Yeah, no, right? And then Jerry also won a metal cover of the Exiled #1 David Sanchez shop exclusive that he did for us on that, which is just beautiful and amazing as well.
For sure.
Again, guys, give David a follow on Instagram. He is D Sanchez Artist,
and he's a super nice guy. He's
really a nice,
And if you need some proof that he's a nice guy, go back and find our episode where we interviewed him, and you will discover it immediately.
100%. Yeah, and guys, if you're into shop exclusives, we have some couple cool ones coming up. Then we're taking a little break for a couple months from putting out shop exclusives, but we do have a couple more. One just in time for C2E2, which we will announce next week. We're gonna announce it next week. We'll give you a little teaser. The cover is by the absolutely wonderful and kind and talented Trish Forstner, who, if you're a Stray Dogs fan and you love that like kind of Disney-esque style that is Trish's, you'll know exactly who we're talking about. We are so excited to finally be able to reveal that cover. And it is a C2E2 release. Even though we won't have a booth there, it's kind of our release for C2E2. I'll be there. I'm going to wander around for a little bit and hand out some cards and those kinds of things, and maybe even like interview people. I don't know. I was thinking about it. Thinking about doing some interviews and asking people like crazy questions. Crazy questions, kids. We like to ask crazy.
Would you rather?
Yeah, would you rather? And then we've got another one.
Batman's utility belt or Thor's hammer?
Batman's utility belt. You may not be able to lift Thor's hammer.
That's good. That's good catch.
Yeah, but I can lose a couple fingers playing with Batman's utility belt. All right. Anyway, so enough of that. Dave, take it away.
All right, friends. Well, we watched Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania together last week. It was great to be together and be able to be in a theater and enjoy that.
Even though we are the curse of the theater,
We
apparently.
are the curse of the theater.
And it's the second time Dave and I have gone to see a movie there in the last month.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
each time there has been some absolutely
just bananas weird thing.
bananas technical like
Yeah.
issue. And this, anyway.
We went to see Avatar and the color was completely off for like all
it was
the
pink and
movies.
green. It was like neon pink and green, and it was so weird and screwy. And you pointed out in this other one, and this time we went and saw when we went and saw Ant-Man Wasp Quantumania, the power went out.
Yeah.
The power went out, and the poor person that worked for the theater last time there was a technical issue happened to be working the day, because you pointed out it's the same person down there from last time standing in the theater. They're back to everybody who's annoyed, just staring at the screen so they can finally radio in, yes, it's working, and screw you guys for making me do this again. Anyway, Kendall Theater in Oswego though is like, I love that theater. It's a good theater.
Yeah, we got what, like a minute, maybe not 2 minutes into the movie, and it just completely...
I don't think we were through like the Marvel like
no, because it was that opening scene with Janet in the
you're right
okay, quantum realm, and then just everything went black, or dark rather. Everything just shut off.
Yeah.
But they got it going again, and we did not have to see the entire set of previews again. We thought for a second we were gonna, because they
started playing them again, and then they and fast forwarded.
Yeah, it was great. So, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, I believe the 31st Marvel movie.
Is it really?
Isn't that bananas? Like,
are you?
It is insane. Right? I'm not positive. I did not do the math myself, but I was listening to one of the movie critic podcasts that I listened to said they counted, and it was 31.
Wow, that's bonkers.
Right.
Okay. Dating back to, when did Iron Man? Well,
2008.
But the question is, are we only counting these, or are we counting like Blade in there? And
I think that, well, I don't know. I think it's probably only Marvel Studios movies, like starting with Iron Man.
Okay.
Because by the time we got to Endgame, that was 22, right? So we probably have had 9 since then.
I don't know. But
I don't know. Anyway, it's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah. And we are here to talk about Ant-Man Wasp Quantumania, which is the first movie of Phase 5, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah, Phase 4 ended with Wakanda Forever.
Yeah.
Ended on kind of a,
kind of a sad note. Yeah, solemn. That's a good word for it. Solemn. Yeah.
Solemn. And then you made a really good point around, like, kind of the Ant-Man movies seem to follow like heavier movies.
Yeah, right. Because the first one came out after, I think, Civil War. Well, no, it couldn't have, because Civil War, because Ant-Man was in Civil War. Yeah.
It had to come out before.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't look it up. I should have. But I know the second one came out after Infinity War. So everybody just been snapped out, and then we got Ant-Man 2.
That is incorrect, sir.
Are you sure?
Are you sure? Because they get snapped, and he's
at the end. They get snapped, but you don't realize that it had been like the timing of it throughout the movie of 2.
No, because he had to go all the way through 2, because they were investigating the quantum realm. I don't think the timing's right.
Okay, that could be right.
Anyway, doesn't matter.
Yeah. we could look this up, but homework. I'm too old to do homework.
We'll look it up and get back to you guys. But let's talk about this movie.
Yeah. So anyway, It does feel like that. Well, wherever they come out, it feels like they come out and provide a little bit of comedy relief after a heavy movie.
Yes.
And for sure, this case after following Wakanda Forever. Yeah.
Yeah. It's it was, and it's interesting. Like, this is now officially like the worst, tied for the worst critically reviewed Marvel movie with Eternals.
Wow.
Yeah. And
that seems harsh to me.
it seems super harsh to me. But
Yeah.
fan-wise, it's solid. Like fans seem to really enjoy it. Now there's those of course that don't, and you get that all the time, right? And there's always that split, but the vast majority of like movie goers
Yeah.
um actually seem to really enjoy the movie. And I have to say, like, I enjoyed it.
I did
I
too.
thought it
That
was
was our immediate
fun.
reaction. Remember, like the moment it was done, you and I looked at each other and said, "That was fun."
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that I don't know what. So we talked a little bit about this, right? So there's definitely some critic fatigue around superhero movies.
For sure, and especially and specifically Marvel movies.
Yes, specifically Marvel movies, but there's absolutely some critic fatigue around superhero movies.
Yeah.
And sure, I get that, right? If you're a professional movie critic, like that's your job. Is you're a
Yeah.
professional movie critic. You're probably a pretty solid cinephile, and that is the thing. Um, where you're very much into cinema. You probably watch a lot of foreign movies, just very artistically done
Sure.
films, dramas, and all of a sudden, like let's say you've been doing it for 20 years and you've had to watch 31 Marvel movies in that time and you're not a comic book person. By
It's
this
totally
time, you're probably
understandable.
like,
Yeah.
you know what? F my life.
Right. And that's the sense that I get from not the F my life part, but the everything else that you said. From the critics that I've read. Like they're just tired of the Marvel thing.
Well, and we talked about too. So Marvel is following a pattern that we see a lot in comic books, right? In comic book storylines, we have these big, uh, world spanning stories and
Crossover events that like everybody's in everybody's
crossover events,
books.
everything else, and
Yeah.
they tie all into each other, right?
Yeah.
So everybody's
Right.
kind of, part of everybody's story. And with good reason, right? That continuity is something that we all enjoy. It makes you go buy a different book than what you normally buy to
Sure.
be able to see what's going
Yeah.
on. But if you've been a fan, right, for a long time, the stories that keep us. Davey froze because you're typing on your
Sorry.
computer and you froze.
I was trying to look
Um,
something up. I will not do that.
yeah. So think about, right, the stories we got in phase one, and we talked about this very much earthbound stories.
Yeah.
Earthbound heroes. Sure, you
Yes.
had Thor, right? But even in Thor's first one, he came to Earth, right? From Asgard, he came to Earth. There was a little bit of Asgard. In Dark World, again, on Earth, little bit of like space, but not
Yeah.
a ton, right? Some Asgard and some Dark World stuff, but again, Earth. So lots of earthbound crises, which gives it a much more grounded feeling,
Sure.
right? And sure, it's not reality. We get that, but it is a little bit more like relatable for some people because we're like, oh, okay, that's a street, and that's those are destructions of buildings, and we understand,
Sure.
right, the basic stuff,
Oh, there's people in a coffee shop or
right? And then we
driving
get,
cars or whatever. Yeah, sure. Or there's some version that looks like kind of like the FBI or the CIA or something. Yeah, they call it Shield, but it's people.
right, it's people, so
Yeah.
it's relatable, right? It feels grounded.
Yeah.
um but as time has gone on, right, we're in a phase now that really involves like galaxy spanning. And we see this in the comics that where there's like some big thing that happens on Earth, like civil war, right?
Yeah.
And then what happens is we get reminded that there's these bigger problems out there outside of what just is involved in our planet. So while everybody's scrambling through civil war, all of a sudden like the scrolls are invading and the
Yeah.
Kree empire is collapsing, and Galactus is making his way to the planet, or Kang is, or Thanos, or what have you, or you have incursions, and
Yep.
like there's just this much larger universe at play, and there's all these multiverses, and so we've had some weird, like kind of weird imagination stretching movies in the last phase
For sure.
with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, right? With
Yep.
Thor, Love and
Being
Thunder, and
all over
even
the place.
Ragnarok, right?
Right. Yeah.
All of those.
Well, and Eternals, like, yeah, that's on Earth, but there's this whole the whole celestial thing.
Right,
So
but
that,
like we
there's
talked
the space
about coming
god
out of
kind
the
of thing. Yeah.
movie, right? Like we talked about coming out of the movie is that what we're getting now is we're getting these far-fetched, like far-reaching, really stretch your imagination stories to introduce much larger problems, right? That are like world-ending, potentially world-ending events. And
Right.
then we get this like random Earthbound story in like Wakanda Forever that introduces, an undersea whatever, but it's Earthbound to remind us like what's at stake.
Right.
So while these other crazy adventures are happening with like a Kang the Conqueror or the Council of Kangs, right, that could come in and
Oof.
potentially
Yes.
wipe out our planet, like while we're seeing this and the power that it involves, every now and then we get and here's what's at stake. Like this is what we could lose to try and build the drama and build like that aspect of it. And I think if you haven't been following comics for a long time, right? And I guess for a few years at least, and been through a few crossover events and whatnot, like
Or watch,
that's
yeah, or collected a long run of even a singular book where you get those sort of like, here are the like six issues in a row where it's all local stuff, and then here's the 4 issues where we're out in space or in
right.
some other like crazy dimension or
Yeah,
something.
you're
Like,
like, what is happening? Like,
right.
where did we get, like, how did this happen? He's out in like I don't know where he is, but
Yeah.
one of my favorite runs in comics was Infinity, um,
Hmm.
where they talked about incursions
Yeah.
and you had the builders and, such a
Right.
good,
Ex nihilo and like all
such a
of,
good storyline, like the
yeah.
planet, like builders and the planet destroyers and
Starbrand, which is continued to be a
Starbrand.
thing. Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
and so that was like one of my favorite crossover events. It's really brilliantly like written. There's some beautiful art in there. There's some questionable art in there, but in some
Always.
of the
Yeah.
issues, but um just phenomenal. And that's one of those things, right? Like you get a couple issues where everybody's fighting on Earth, right? You've
Yeah.
got the Earthbound team that's like, fuck, we got to hold the line here while
Right.
Cap and everybody else goes out into space to try and face the bigger galaxy threat. And then everybody ends up back at Earth because Thanos is a dick. And right.
Right.
So, and then we get that piece of it. And I think, in defense of what people are kind of saying about this is I think that's what we're seeing now, right? Kang is not an earthbound villain. Kang didn't sprout from like a garage where he, was a
Right.
bad guy, or he
Yeah.
didn't
Or just from
steal
stealing
Tony
tech.
Stark's.
Right.
Yeah, he
Exactly.
wasn't
Yeah.
stealing tech, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny. We both went there.
Yeah.
Um, he's a universal, like multiversal, galaxy spanning threat.
Time spanning. Yeah.
Yeah, time
Spanning,
spanning. Like,
rather. Sorry.
and
Yeah.
Jonathan Majors
So
knocked
good.
that out of the park.
He's a tremendous actor.
He really is.
I mean, I've never seen him in anything that he wasn't just terrific in.
No, I can't believe like the stuff they've canceled that
Like
he was part
Lovecraft
of.
Country was one of my favorite things of the last couple years.
Yeah.
It's such a huge bummer that they canceled that.
And I didn't understand why they canceled it. And I mean, maybe it's because he signed this. I
Yeah, maybe
would,
he wasn't available with other stuff, or maybe it's
yeah,
just
and maybe
weird
they,
stuff's going on over at HBO and all of the. I mean, that was canceled even before like the ownership change or whatever happened there at HBO, where they started canceling a bunch of stuff. But yeah, that show was phenomenal.
yeah. And he was, man, what else was he in? He's just been in a ton of stuff. Man, he was just in a Korean War
Yeah.
movie.
Yep. Devotion.
He was so good at, like,
Right.
he's just a great actor. I'm looking forward to seeing him in the upcoming Creed movie
Right. Yes. Yeah.
with
Oh my God, he is friggin' jacked in that
yeah, he
Creed
got
movie.
super jacked for that role. He was never really a
No,
little dude, though.
no, but he's significant. No, you're correct, but he's like noticeably bigger in the Creed previews.
He carries the reason I like him as Kang is a couple things. His he carries a level of like intensity about him
Yes,
in his roles, emotional intensity, right? Not like violent emotional intensity, just emotional intensity that he sells so easy. Like
for
the
sure.
sadness that
Right.
he sells Janet at the beginning where she's telling the story, like they're doing the flashback of,
Yep.
her meeting Kang and how devastated he was and how he was like, one of these days you're just going to open the door and she's going to be there. And you felt like he was genuinely like, this was going to be something.
Yep.
He was a good guy, and then she touches the ship and finds out he is a conqueror. Like that's
Mhm.
what he does.
Yeah.
Um, and then the menace that suddenly showed, like the
That's a
shift
great word
from
for it. Menace. Yeah,
the
exactly.
shift from
Yeah.
that emotional, like I'm your friend, I'm here to
Yep.
help,
We're in this
into
together
into
into,
like
oh no.
I will smash you if you get in my way, Janet.
Correct.
Like,
Yeah. And he's got that, Jonathan Majors has that um veiled rage
mm-hmm.
thing down to a T. Like he can go
Yes.
like the picture that I have for me right here. Like you can see the pathos there. You can see the sadness. You can see the pain,
Uh-huh.
and he can very quickly change that to very believable anger and menace and violence.
Well, look at his face in the picture behind me,
Right. Yes.
right?
That is
That
a
is that
do
is
not F with me.
hate.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's a hate right there on that face. That
Yeah.
is like I am gonna burn you and everything to the ground. And man, he just think about his first introduction as Kang in the Loki series. It was a completely different character than what we got in this.
Right.
And he sold it easy,
For sure. Yeah.
right?
I haven't thought about this before. Do you think the Kang that we met in the Loki series is this same version of Kang that was in this movie, or do you think that was a different?
No, I think it's
Probably a
different.
different one, right? Because this
Well,
guy's
he
been
remember
stuck down
that
here.
one was saying that like he was kind of the one that kept everybody at bay,
Yeah.
right? He's like, if you kill me, they're coming. This one was more aggressive. Like he was going to kill them and he was winning. And the crazy thing about that was there was a time in that movie sitting there listening to Jonathan Majors talk about why he was doing what he was doing with the incursions
Mm-hmm.
and everything else, where you thought he might actually be a good version of Kang,
Right.
like, and she was just misunderstanding him. And then we see him like start destroying everything, and you're like, okay, so he's
He still is a despot.
yeah, because he was like, you kill women, men, women, and children to get, like you mentioned, the peacemaker thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna, I'm here to make peace
Peace.
happen, no matter how many
How many
men, women,
men,
and
women, and
children I
children
have
I
to
have to
kill to do
kill?
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's clearly him.
Right.
Yeah, Jonathan Majors, like he's. I'm excited to see where this goes with him.
For sure. And it was fun at the end where we got to see a whole bunch of different versions
The
of
Council of
Kang.
Kings.
The Council of Kangs. We got the Immortus looking one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the like sort of Egyptian looking one, and I forget what the other one was. The main one, kind of like
Amatep, something like that.
yeah, and then kind of the like almost cyborg kind of one.
Yeah, I mean, you get a bunch of them, and
Yeah, it was so good.
dude, it's just really it's interesting. So I don't know.
So this movie is called Ant-Man and Wasp Quantumania, and we haven't talked about Ant-Man or Wasp yet.
Well, I
'Cause-
think like that just goes to show like the impression though that Jonathan Majors leaves on the
yeah.
screen when he's there. Um,
So looking at your your picture reminds me the Kang, the standard Kang suit or outfit in the comics is kind of ridiculous. Kind of has that like over the top thing, but I thought they pulled it off. Like looking at the picture you used there, I think they did a good job of
Mhm.
using that like sort of green, and I don't know if it's blue or purple, but because I'm
Yeah,
colorblind.
I was
But
surprised. I
like
didn't think it was
I
gonna.
I didn't it didn't bother me the way I thought it might.
Yeah, I thought it would. I'm trying to see if I have that. Would I have a
And I thought it
my?
was interesting the way like you get the scars on Jonathan Major's face for that look of Kang that always had those sort of stripes or scars, or as far as I know, I think that it's never been well, I should say I've never encountered a book that explained what that was about.
Yeah, here. I knew there was a copy of it in there somewhere, but like,
Oh yeah. Right.
right? It's the Council of Kings, by the way, first appearance right there. But
Okay.
um, yeah, you look at just yeah,
Yeah.
try to get out of
It's
the way. Like in the comics, it's kind of like, but on screen,
it's better than in the comic, actually.
mhm,
It's that great combination of a true to the comic look, but improved upon
yes,
on the
there's
screen.
a comic look, but improved upon for sure. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And they did a great job. So Kang, Jonathan Majors is Kang, like 10 out of 10, right?
Yeah. For sure.
Easily. Like that was just such a win. Everybody else though, Paul Rudd as so there's a significant difference between Paul Rudd's humor and the humor of Ant-Man and Wasp Quantumania that came out and what was in Thor Love and Thunder.
Yeah.
Right? In Thor Love and Thunder, it was just campy and it was tough to swallow at times.
Right.
Um, but Paul Rudd has this natural kind of affability to him,
Yes.
right? Um, and easy, like kind of that like,
Self-deprecating.
yeah, but not to the point of you're just like, oh God, but
Right.
you're like, yeah, that's totally, I get that. Like,
Yeah. A little bit of doofus in him, but not
for
so much
sure.
that you're like, again, like you said, like, oh, come on.
And the thing
Like it's
is
an endearing amount of doofus.
yes, it's
I didn't know that
absolutely an
was a thing.
endearing amount of doofus.
Yeah.
And the thing about that is, for me, is if you've ever read any of the Ant-Man comics with Scott Lang's character as Ant-Man, that's kind of who he is.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
it's a believable, like Paul Rudd is very believable as the Scott Lang version of Ant-Man.
Right. He would never work as Hank Pym,
No, not at all.
but he's perfect as Scott Lang, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we got to see Cassie.
Yeah. And I liked what they did with that character.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
and whether there eventually is a Young Avengers or that goes somewhere that she teams up with some of the other teens or not, I liked it. I like how it kind of made sense to me. Oh yeah, I've been hanging out with Grandpa and doing this thing, and
Yeah.
and she's smart and they're figuring it out. And oh yeah, by the way, we did this terribly dangerous thing together. Like that's so comic booky. It's great.
Hmm. And Evangeline Lilly, I did feel like she was almost a little bit too quiet in the movie at times.
Yeah, she was a little sidelined. I would have,
Yeah,
especially for a
there
movie that's called Ant-Man and
and a
Wasp. She
wasp, yeah.
she didn't quite have enough to do.
Yeah, I felt like yeah. She's a little but
Unless, ooh, I just thought of this. Unless the wasp in the title is secretly referring to Janet,
which
because
is possible, but I don't think
I
that's
don't
what the
think that's the
intention was.
intention either. But
Yeah,
we
and
kind of got more from Janet. We certainly got more from Janet.
yes, Michelle Pfeiffer had a lot to do with it, and
Yeah,
and she looked great.
and for sure. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Michael Douglas was fun. He has also made it clear like the only way he's coming back for another one is if they kill him,
Oh,
kill him
really?
off.
Okay.
Yeah. He has I like to refer to it as the Harrison Ford moment in sequels, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I'll come back, but you got to kill me.
yeah.
Because I don't want to come back anymore. So I mean, just overall, the cast, everybody that that was in the movie, I thought did a great job. You know, and I felt like the story moved along at a good pace.
Right. I agree. And I've heard even from some of our friends that are comic book people talk about that sort of the fatigue, and they didn't really enjoy it very much. And that's their right, obviously. But I don't know. I just don't I thought it was fun.
Yes.
And I keep hearing, oh, it looked terrible. And I don't get that either. Like, I thought it was a inventive kind of, you're in this new realm. You can do whatever you want with it. There's sort of almost a Star Wars vibe to
Yeah.
especially like when they first enter the quantum realm and you're encountering all these different creatures and settings. I thought that was fun.
I think where that comes into play, and I had this thought too, is that if I look back at Star Wars, right? And to your point, if I look back at Star Wars, they did anything with it, but they also used like real world spots on Earth to film,
Oh,
so
yeah.
it had the realism, right? This
Okay.
was very much like, and I think this is probably where some of the fatigue comes in, is it was a CGI driven movie.
Yeah.
So was basically Thor Love and Thunder, so was Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, right? Um uh, Wakanda Forever had obviously its CGI stuff as well, but like not as pervasive,
Sure.
right?
Much more grounded in a real
Much more
world.
grounded and real. And
Which is
so
funny to say about a movie that was half underwater, but
yeah, it was happening more. But so for me, I think on that end, like as I kind of went through the same thought process of, it's like with Star Wars, you can do anything you want. Then I thought about it, I was like, well, with Star Wars, like they built sets, right?
sure.
Um, and if you think about like the beginning of Marvel, think about, and we'll go to Iron Man. We'll leave Blade out, though I think that's a tragedy to not include Blade, because Wesley Snipes and that, the first Blade movie, like, really brought the idea that you could make a Marvel superhero movie kind
Sure.
of to the forefront. But I digress. Um, with Iron Man, if you think about Iron Man, right, and the special effects and the way that it was done back then, they did a really nice job of blending it with real world settings and
Yeah.
sets,
Yes.
right? Now we're getting like a video game
Mm,
with human beings inserted
that's
in
fair.
that,
Yeah.
and but there's no other way to do what they're doing,
Right.
right? You can't be like, hey guys, so we're gonna make the most expensive movie ever made because we're gonna make a space station um out in space
Yeah.
and go ahead and film in the space station. Okay, right? No, and it's not like Avatar Way of Water, which again, CGI fest,
Sure.
but right, jungles are believable. Water is something that's a known property. So you had that piece. This is, look at the background.
Yeah.
Like where
Completely.
does that all come from?
Right.
That is 100%, right? There might be some pieces that they built, but I mean, I'll bet you all those characters running away from Jonathan Majors in the background are all computer generated.
Right.
And the level of CGI, I think, is what is probably adding to the fatigue. But like we talked about, you can't do it without it.
Correct. Yeah. You can't tell the story in any other way
Mm-mm.
because like 90% of it happens in the quantum realm.
Hence the name, Quantumania.
Yeah, exactly. Um, and another critique I've run into is, well, gosh, how many times am I going to say, oh, I just want to get home. I just want to get home. Like it sounds like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. And here's my thing about that. When you think about these characters, they're finally together. These five characters, right? Hank and Janet and Scott and Hope and now Cassie.
Mhm.
Their history in the MCU is that they've been alone for long stretches of their life where they've been trapped without each other. right?
Right.
Janet was, they kept saying like 30 years in the quantum realm. So Hank was without Janet. Hope and Janet are separated. I can't honestly remember exactly what was like Hope and Hank's relationship during that time. It must have been okay.
Hmm.
They had each
Yeah.
other, but Scott talked about how he's been in jail like a couple of times, 2 3 times. So he's been away from Cassie, and then he's when everybody gets blipped out, gets snapped out, he's stuck in the quantum realm. So
The quantum realm.
he misses a huge chunk of Cassie's life.
Right.
So all 5 of them have had moments where they've been separated from the people they love. And so I think, to me, when they're saying like, oh, they want to be home, what they mean is they just like, they don't mean the building where they live. They
Right.
just mean being together.
Mm, yeah.
So they
And,
finally had that moment where they're together, and all of a sudden it gets ripped apart again.
yeah.
And to me, that's a very believable motivation, given who these characters are.
Yes. Yeah. I think so. And I would challenge anybody who's saying that. Like, what do you think you're gonna say if you got dropped into the middle of like a scary situation, far away from friends and family and any kind of anything that you found was normal, you know, you're gonna be like, I just want to go home.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Like
Just want
you
to
hear
find my
that,
family and be together and be home.
you
Yeah.
guys in
Be
the
safe.
military, like,
Oh, sure.
that was a common theme. You hear people talk about like their story of in Vietnam, like, or any major conflict where they're dropped somewhere. Like, look, man, I just want to go home.
Yeah.
I just want to do whatever we have to do to get out of here, and I just want to go home.
Yeah.
Right. So like I don't understand that, but I mean, in all fairness, like, is what it is. People are gonna have their opinion
Sure.
and their
Yeah.
thought, and you're welcome to them, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
I don't agree, and that's okay. I don't think you're a bad person. It's too much of that
There's not for
idea.
that.
Yeah, there's too much of that anymore. Like, I don't agree
Right.
with
Yeah.
you, and that makes you a bad person.
Yeah.
No, it just means you disagree,
Yeah.
right? You can think whatever you want. And there are people who don't like this movie, and that's okay. You don't have to like it. And I understand the fatigue from Marvel movies. I felt it. Um, like, I didn't really feel the need to rush out and see most of the superhero movies in the last year. Like, normally I'm like, well, like you and I talked about. We went and saw Avengers Infinity War. We were there at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Endgame, but yeah. Right.
Endgame.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Endgame. We were there at 4 o'clock in the morning, like
Yeah.
psychos,
Right.
right? With all the other psychos in the
Right.
room, like,
Yeah. I mean, that's a
and it was
whole different
packed.
thing. Like, I think that's part of the problem too, though, that not every movie can be Endgame.
Okay, that's fair.
because one, he had 20 something movies building up to it, 2021 movies building up to it. It's the big climax of that whole first story,
Right.
and everything since, like, it just can't all have that scope, and we're just not going to be that fully invested in every single movie since then. Like, they kind of hold Marvel to the highest standard that you want, and we do too. Like, we want them to be good,
Mm-hmm.
but not every movie can have all those high emotional connections, because there's just not that same time and energy put into all the new characters. And to me, I feel like for sure Marvel like went for kind of a big swing to in this phase 4. Like, they're like, we're going to try some stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not just going to be all these same characters that you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
Like, kind of to your point at the beginning, we're going to expand the universe so much, and you're going to meet all these new places and people and situations. And I get it that not everybody's going to love them, and not every movie's been great. And I don't think this movie's great. I think it's good. I don't think it's great, but it's
Yeah.
good and it's fun. I thought it was fun. I had fun watching it. It was entertaining.
Yeah, I thought it was, you
I
know
thought it was
what?
funny.
yeah, I thought it was funny. I thought it had some heart to it. I didn't think it was perfect, but it kind of goes into that like Black Adam experience for me,
Yeah.
right? I wasn't going in expecting like an Oscar level movie. I went
Yeah.
in like just thinking, okay, well, let's just check it out. And I was happy. Like I was happy that I did. I
Yeah.
didn't feel like I wasted my time. I thought this is fun. It was a good time. I had that same thought process going in to see the first Iron Man. Granted, I was blown away by the first Iron Man. It was like Robert Downey Jr. is hands down like Tony Stark in the flesh.
For sure.
Like the whole thing, we talked about the first Captain America movie was the weakest out of all of them. It was still good.
Yeah.
That's the one Marvel franchise that I think like didn't drop a turd.
The Captain America.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, like it just didn't drop a turd, and I for whatever reason, like they just managed to do good throughout.
The Cap stories. I don't know if I don't know if I'd go so far as to say some of those are turds. I think there's still some good fun stuff in Iron Man 2.
Iron Man 2 was a turd.
Okay.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it was like I watched it. I've probably watched it 3 times,
Yeah.
but Whiplash, like,
They were still finding their way with that one for sure. Like that was not a
yeah.
great
And they
representation
made
of Whiplash.
they did a good comeback with, 2 or 3, I mean.
Yeah, I
I thought
agree. I know that
three
people
was
don't
better.
like 3, but I thought 3 was good.
I thought 3 was good. It's so not everyone is going to be like we said, not everyone's going to be a home run. Not everyone's going to have that deep connection. And Spider-Man with Tom Holland hasn't dropped a turd yet either.
No, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah,
2's the weakest link of the 3, I think, but it's still good.
still good,
Yeah.
dude. Still good,
Yeah.
right? Um,
And 3 is phenomenal. No Way Home's
it's so good, and
that's in the upper
and I think
echelon, I think.
if you look at the movie that follow one that has that level of emotional impact, like that No Way Home did, or Endgame, or something like that, anything that follows that movie for a while is going to be unfairly judged against that,
Sure.
right? And Multiverse of Madness, like we talked about, was a big swing by Marvel and Sam Raimi, totally different, off the wall, bonkers feel, and
Right.
it was cool in its own way. Um, Thor and Love and Thunder, we talked about, is like the not great.
Yeah. Just breaks my heart because that should have been such a good movie.
It
Because it's such
should
a
have been.
tremendous storyline in the books.
Yes, but they took too many liberties to try and cram it into a movie, and
Right.
it just didn't win. Um, and then Wakanda Forever, right? Like we talked about, I thought Black Adam was more fun, but I thought from a like kind of quality level of film, like
Yeah,
Wakanda Forever was more emotionally intense and
for sure.
grounded. And this, there wasn't there wasn't that like emotional roller coaster. It was just like there's some lighter moments, there's some intense, like
Yeah.
it was a fun, goofy action movie with a whole boatload of special effects from beginning to end. That is the first entry into this phase that is setting up so much more.
Right. And you can see that Kang will make a formidable villain for this
Yes.
phase.
Yeah.
But presumably
And
he's going to be the super big bad
yeah,
for
through
this
this entire
phase.
phase, from
Yeah.
what I understand.
And he can pull it off.
Yes. Yeah. So,
I will say there was one thing before we wrap up. I will say there's one thing that it's very comic booky, but it's still sort of frustrating. Like, in the books, sometimes heroes or villains their power level will fluctuate to sort of meet the needs of the story,
yes.
right? Like sometimes Thor can fly into the sun and live there for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And sometimes like 4 random humans can beat him up. Like, and there's some of that here with Kang, I thought. Like, I wasn't really sure what his power set was or is. And there's where he's got Scott and Cassie in the prison thing. he can manipulate. He's manipulating the gravity or something, and he seems omnipotent. And then 30 minutes later, Giant Scott is more than he can handle. He sends everybody else after him. Like, why doesn't he just shoot Scott down with his laser blast thingy? Or which is fine. Like, again, that's a very it's a very storied, very comic booky thing to happen. Like, that's how it goes. I get it.
Right.
But it was more noticeable to me in that movie in that sense than maybe a lot of the other ones.
Right. Yeah. Oh shit, sorry. All right. So to sum up.
Yeah.
Dave, what would you give the movie?
Well, our grading system, our patented, trademarked Coffee and Cave's grading system of overwhelmed, whelmed, or underwhelmed does not leave a lot of room for nuance.
Right.
So I'm gonna give it an overwhelmed because I thought it was better than average. It's better than whelmed. Now, here's where that falls apart. That, overwhelmed is also what we gave, say, Spider-Man No Way Home, and that's a much better movie than this one. So there's not a lot of room for gradients in our three-tiered system, but
we can add some. We can always. It is our system. We can kind of.
So this sort of underwhelmed minus, if you will.
Yeah, I would go. Underwhelmed minus. Like, we can do like a minus or a plus system, right? I would say overwhelmed minus, right? Not like fully overwhelmed, to your point. It's not on par with like No Way Home or something like that, but I thought it was above average. I thought it was. I found this to be more entertaining to me, right, on a pure entertainment level, hands down, than Thor: Love and Thunder.
Correct.
I thought it had more heart to it than Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Right.
It didn't have the intensity level of Wakanda Forever, but I mean, again, you're going up against something that has a lot of emotion to it because of Chadwick Boseman and everything they did around that. So, but I would,
And compared to expectations, like, this movie is definitely overwhelming compared to expectations. Because, as you said, I went in with very little expectations. Just, entertain me. And are you not entertained? I was entertained.
Yeah, to that point, right? And that brings up a good point, and then we'll wrap up. Is that, like, temper expectations going into something? My dad always says, if you ever want to be disappointed, have expectations.
Sure.
Like, it's just the way it is, and he talks about that in like relationships and life in general. Like, there's no faster way to be disappointed or upset about something than to have expectations about how you think it should be. And that's, man, there's one thing about comic book culture and the people embedded in it, fans, right? We have
super high expectations for
because we have an idea of how we think it should be. Look at everybody bitching about James Gunn's direction on DC. We talked about that, right?
Yeah. I think that's an important distinction, though, between, like, you're allowed to have expectations, but like, expectation that it will be the way I want it to be.
There you go. Right. And that's where the expectation comes from. Is I want it to be this way.
Yeah.
And it doesn't meet that. If I go into a movie like this and I have I'm just going to check it out and see how it goes.
Yeah.
And when I walked out, I was like, that was great. I had so much fun.
Entertaining.
If I go in and I'm like, I want it to be this, and I want it to do this, and I want it to do this, and I expect, Kang to be like this, all of that, and it doesn't meet those marks, I'm going to walk out thinking that is probably the worst movie I've ever seen. But I didn't do that, right? I did that with Justice League.
And Thor: Love and Thunder. I totally did that with Thor: Love and Thunder.
I know you did, buddy. Like, you're a big Thor fan. I am,
especially that storyline, man. It's so good.
I know.
Anyway,
it's okay. It's time to start getting over it. By the way, just to throw it out there, because it's the background on my screen before we leave. Two things. Invincible season 2 is coming next month.
Is that right? I had not heard that.
I believe next month. I think it was March next month. Or May. It's
one of those M months.
And something random is that they're talking about doing a live action Invincible movie.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I had not heard that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just read that yesterday because Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Oh, to play Omni-Man?
No, dude, they're talking about they think he's voicing Grand Admiral Throg in
Oh.
Invincible season 2.
Okay. Okay.
But then they kind of talked about as well, like, could he be, because there was a picture of him on social media with Compendium 2 and 3 from Invincible,
Okay.
like kind of with his arms resting on it. And so, of course, that kicks off speculation, but everybody
Yeah.
thinks, well, he's probably going to be Grand Admiral Throg,
Okay.
or
Okay.
Grand Regent Throg.
Yeah.
And then there was like, but he could be a really good Omni-Man.
Yeah, he
I
could.
agree with that. Like
Yeah,
Jeffrey Dean Morgan, he's solid.
he is.
Anyway, so that's my tangent.
That's far afield, but
Yeah. All right.
oh, so Ant-Man, you gave it an overwhelmed as well? Ant-Man
Yeah. Overall
yeah.
minus.
Overwhelmed minus. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's
Well,
fair.
folks, let us know what you thought. Like, if you didn't like it, let us know. If you liked it, let us know. Well, we love hearing from you.
Give us a review.
Yes.
Tag us in social, coffee _ the letter N _ capes. Give us a review, drop your 5-star review, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube. Like if you want to do it on YouTube, that's fine. Go to Instagram, let us know, tag a friend. And in 2 weeks, like I said, we're gonna pick a winner and give away a Coffee and Cape Shop exclusive. So you're gonna get a full full art cover of Draculina Blood Simple #1 by David Sanchez, and a little coffee as well.
Awesome.
So
I'm enjoying someone is brewing the coffee, our Italian roast this morning.
I've got Respawn.
Mm,
I have Respawn today.
very good.
Yeah, Respawn's good as well.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for being with us. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Until then, true believers, bye.
Bye, Kevin Costner.